football team Buccaneers. Going through what y'all need to know to make some money on this bitch. Saturday night football. Let's go. So weather first. We ain't got no real weather in this game, being in Florida and everything. It's all good here. Injury wise, Terry McLaurin, Alex Smith, Antonio Gibson, all this is questionable. All big deals. It looks like it's probably going to be Taylor Heineke actually starting a quarterback, which I'll get into how that impacts things. But we'll see. Obviously, they haven't made any official declarations. Terry McLaurin questionable. I'm sure he's going to play. Same with Antonio Gibson, but they might be a little bit limited, which is worrying. So first, we have the run game. Offensive line: Cornelius Lucas, Wes Schweitzer, Chase Roulier, Brandon Sheriff, Morgan Moses. So they actually, the football team, they suck at running the ball generally. They just, their scheme is really bad. They don't create a lot of easy yards. And here that's the case for sure. But I will say that their offensive line matches up a little bit better with the Buccaneers defense than a lot of teams do. William Golston, Raheem Nunez-Roches, Dominican Sue, Steve McClendon, the important guys on the interior. Because the football team's interior offensive line, they are pretty big and strong. They have a lot of issues with smaller guys or players that can run around them. Think, like Grady Jarrett, that type of player. But the Buccaneers, they specialize in just big-ass dudes who are really good at controlling the line of scrimmage. And while the football team, they're not going to push the line of scrimmage at all, they can't. They at least are not going to get destroyed and blown up every play, which is about like a light positive if you're looking for anything. On the edges, though, it's probably worse. Cornelius Lucas, I actually like him, decent pass protector, but not a real run guy. And Morgan Moses, I mean, that dude, he can lean on dudes. He's pretty similar to worse Rob Havenstein on the Rams, but he isn't a notable. He's not a bulldozer or anything like that just because he's big. That doesn't mean he moves people. And with the Bucs edge defender specifically, Jason Pierre-Paul, that's tough. Shaq Barrett, back off the COVID list, he's not so bad himself. And then Anthony Nelson, they got something in him. I've talked about him in other Buccaneers videos. Backup rotational outside linebacker, he's pretty good too. So you're talking about basically no push on the line, which football team is pretty used to, but at least it's not a disaster. On the second level, no Devin White still on the COVID list. That one is a big deal. Levante David's still going to be outstanding, especially in this game where he's going to be free most of the time. He's going to make a lot of plays. Kevin Minter, though, we'll see. I mean, he's a veteran. He's been around for a long time, and he was okay given a 1 week sample size last week. Again, against a bad running team in the Falcons. Well, against an average running team in the Falcons. But here, I think that difference is not going to make a huge difference. The step between Devin White and Kevin Minter obviously is the large one, but football team doesn't do anything special running the ball. Their offensive line isn't going to get to the second level very well. So Kevin Minter is going to be able to fill in the box decently, and it's not like the football team attacks the edges great or anything like that. So not super worried in that sense. It's not much to mention too with the overall run game because the football team not really gonna be able to run the ball. Jordan Whitehead, strong safety for the Bucs, is a notably useful run defender in the secondary too. So I will mention as well though, if there is any chance, Antonio Gibson is a legit dude. Normally I don't even talk about running backs because I don't really give a fuck, but he actually care about it a little bit. He can make yards occasionally. So then we get the pass game. So pass rush first. There, I actually think the football team is gonna be fine. Well, fine-ish. On the interior, they're big offensive linemen. Like I said, they don't struggle with the way that the Bucs push the pocket in. There might be some flashes of that, but I think they're gonna be okay. On the edges too, I mean, Jason Pierre-Paul's a decent edge rusher, but he isn't a huge step ahead of the football team's tackles. And Shaq Barrett, I'm definitely worried about as a speed guy, especially versus Morgan Moses. He's notably vulnerable to that. But on a down-to-down basis, I don't know that there's going to be that much pressure. Now the Bucs do blitz a whole lot, but even that, right? Football team offensive line has been together pretty much all year, and there are a lot of veteran guys who know what they're doing. So I think they're going to be mostly okay. Now, is there still enough to be limiting? Yes, just the football team's not good enough to prevent that, but it's not this crazy circumstance. So then the receivers, Terry McLaurin is in the category of Stephon Diggs, John Brown, Robert Woods, those guys who are just open regardless of who they're playing against. That's the case with Terry McLaurin. That's the case here. Although he is limited, we'll see how much the injury hurts him. There are other guys, though. Cam Sims is the exact type of receiver that Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean are going to fuck up consistently. Same with Dontrell Inman. And Steven Sims Jr. is, He's like just a really kind of average slot receiver, and while I think he could be a little bit useful here, we'll see. Logan Thomas, though, Logan Thomas, I've come around on. I think he's actually legit pretty good. Mostly because he knows how to read defenses, given his quarterback background probably, and knows how to find space. Which that space is going to be here because let's be clear, the Bucs dumbass defense. They've been doing this since half the year. Now they did it a little bit less against the Falcons last week, maybe hopefully they're starting to learn, but they still do it enough to make me worried. Instead of running this like press man system that they should be doing, which obviously like simplifies it a lot, they run a ton of like soft zone coverage with these big ass corners who are bad at it. And Jamel Dean, Carlton Davis, like they're good corners, but they're not really good at that. That just you're taking a valuable asset and turning it into just a replacement level thing. And they still did it like sometimes versus Falcons last week. We'll see how much they do it, and in this game it probably doesn't matter that much. But I just want to mention that despite the bad matchups for Cam Sims and these other receivers, they're probably still gonna be okay. And especially Logan Thomas can beat that type of defense pretty like significantly. So then we talk about the quarterbacks. Taylor Heineke was actually like legitimately impressive in the fourth quarter against the Panthers. Now that is a terrible defense, and that is 1/4 of a football game. But that dude put more like good throws on tape in that little sequence than a lot of quarterbacks do over a whole year, which is just a really interesting thing. Now, yeah, is that a result of the terrible defense and they were playing kind of prevent defense? Probably. I just want to mention that this isn't like a garbage quarterback. This isn't like whenever it was a Connor Cook who got thrown in for the Raiders when they made the playoffs. It's not that very likely. So, and especially given, the Bucs keep playing that zone defense, he showed that he can at least read it decently. Now, how well is that going to go over the course of the game? Probably not great, but I don't think it's a disaster. And Alex Smith has shown he can definitely do that. Now, Alex Smith I actually get a little bit more worried about with the mobility thing, with how much the Bucs blitz and their O-line not being perfect. But either way, the Bucs have like opportunities to move the ball a little bit. Like I don't think they're going to get shut out now. I do have them at let's see, what was it? It was 6-13, I believe, or I might have upgraded. Yeah, 9-16. I did end up upgrading it a little bit, but that's like the high end, right? Their ceiling as an offense is really low generally, and against this matchup, it's probably even worse. Especially the Bucs are kind of vulnerable at safety. It's one Winfield, get out of here with that. He's whatever. The football team though, they don't attack that. They don't really push the ball down the field very well or frequently at all. So the ceiling for the offense is really low. It's just because I will give some credit to McLaurin, Antonio Gibson, and to Alex Smith if he plays, being able to break down his own defense to at least move the ball and kick some field goals. But any higher than that, probably not. And now the other side of the ball, probably the more interesting one. So injury-wise, nothing really relevant. Mike Evans is questionable. He didn't play. So we got run game, football team, Bucs. So Donovan Smith, Ellie Marpet, Ryan Jensen, Alex Kappa, Tristan Wirfs versus Chase Young, Ron Payne, Jonathan Allen, a little throwback there, Tim Settle, and Montez Sweat. So so the football team obviously pretty much in the playoffs because of their front four, but I will say that this isn't really an advantage for them. They're good, but the Bucs offensive line is really good too. Now, I think it's really a neutral situation, and normally I always say that the neutral situations favor the offense, which pretty much is almost always true. This one is as well, but just not so much because the Bucs, right, their run game is really dependent on getting pushed to the line of scrimmage, which here, not really there. There are going to be some flashes on the edges specifically, but on the interior, I mean, Marpet's one of the best guards in the NFL, maybe the best, but Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, like for real run guys. So and Tim Settle too. So they're not really going to push there. And Alex Kappa is notably vulnerable to really strong players in the interior and kind of get tossed around a little bit, which is going to happen here. That's an issue for them for sure. And on the edges, Donovan Smith, Tristan Wirfs, both really good run blockers, especially Tristan Wirfs. But Montez Sweat, one of the best edge defending run defending edge players in the NFL, chasing them. So I've talked about this with him before. He's really good for sure, but he's not, especially as a run defender. He's not like Khalil Mack. He's not Montez Sweat. He's not this like elite guy. You can run the ball right at him and have some success. Now, is it going to be like crazy? No, don't get me wrong, but that is a place they can attack, especially with how good their tackles are. And then on the second level, football team's linebackers not great. Cole Holcomb's pretty good, and John Bostic against the scheme I think is going to be okay, but it's not like they're these shutdown players. So if Ronald Jones gets past the line of scrimmage, there are going to be chances down the field. So I will mention though Cam Curl, their safety, pretty useful. He's like pretty decent as a run guy, but again, overall, while I think the run game is going to be like pretty mediocre for the Bucs as it is generally when they play tough front sevens, it's not like nothing. It's not impossible for them. So then you get the pass game. So pass rush wise, and here this is my big problem with the football team. I think their pass rush gets really overrated a lot of times. When they play bad offensive lines, they'll kill them for sure. But that's not the case here. And on the interior, Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, not really pass rushers the way that some other interior players are. Like they're good, but they don't generally like generate a ton of pressure themselves. Now they can a little bit, especially I talked about the thing with Alex Kappa, but it's not anything I'm like terrified of. And on the edges, listen, the Bucs tackles are better in pass protection than the football team's edges are rushing the passer for sure. Montez Sweat is a pretty good speed rusher. Both of the tackles can handle that. Like I'm not going to say that they're going to like shut them down, but like on a down to down basis, the pressure is not going to be all that significant for the football team in this game. And also yeah, Chase Young, he's not he's not one of like the Bosa brothers. He's not one of these like elite pass rushers at this point. He's good. He's better than a vast majority of the league. But like when he's playing against Ivan Smith, is he going to generate a ton of pressure? No. So that's an advantage for the Bucs. And then you talk about the receivers, and again, I mean, listen, the football team, their corners, Ronald Darby's played out of his mind this year compared to what he normally does, but he's still vulnerable to double moves down the field, or just down the field in general. Kyle Fuller is undersized, or that's Kendall Fuller is undersized, and with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin at the catch point, that's a problem. Their slot corners, I like Jimmy Moreland a little bit, but he's not crazy. And Antonio Brown is going to be able to separate from literally any secondary player that the football team puts on him. No matter, he's the best receiver on the Bucs, and he's going to kill anybody he plays. That's what he does always. And frankly, like I said, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans are good enough that it's not like they're going to be shut down by the secondary at all. So then you talk about the safeties too. Cam Curl, not a notable coverage player. I think he's okay, but there. And then Jeremy Reeves has actually held up okay since he's come in at free safety. He's been decent. He's been the best one they've played this year. But is he great? No. And I'm worried that getting tested a bunch for his really good receivers in this game, he's not going to hold up. So then Brady. Brady's fine in this game. Football team, they kind of rely on physical dominance in the line of scrimmage, which they don't have here. Now, it's not nothing. They still have a good defense. But over the course of a game against against the offense that's going to give him a lot of chances with the ball, even against what people think of this defense as being, he's going to be fine. And down the field, there's going to be a lot of chances. His receivers are good enough. And hell, if Mike Evans is questionable, even if he doesn't play, Scotty Miller and Tyler Johnson are good enough, like given the circumstance, to be fine. And his tight ends, Gronk, Braid, they're not limited here either. So yeah, I have them at 23 to 30 points. I could easily get higher than that. I'm not going to because there is still enough pass rush to be there, and their offensive scheme is similar to like the Seahawks and the Falcons and other teams where they're just going to shoot themselves in the foot and cause themselves to not score points a lot. But that's the only reason, basically. Because I mean, if the football team, if they had an offense that was going to be able to possess the ball for any meaningful amount of time, I would get more worried about how the football team can play. But not the case here. They're going to be able to basically do whatever they want by the end of the game. So 23 to 30 for them. In terms of the spread, it's gotten up. So I'm doing this on video, obviously a little bit late. So I believe it's gotten up to 9 since the news was announced about Alex Smith. It's up to 10 now, and over under set at 45. Honestly, nothing in this game I think is super bettable. The Bucs minus 10 is definitely the side because I think by the end of the game they're probably going to end up covering that, but it's not crazy safe just from the nature of their offense. And if the football team does get a defensive score or something, and then the over under too, I mean the Bucs could cover that by themselves. It's unlikely, and like I said, talked about, Tyler Heineke has actually flashed that there's a chance that he's okay in this game. So I don't feel super great about both of them. I think the Bucs minus 10 and the under are both bettable though, and that's what I'm going to characterize them at. But yeah, Bucs are going to win.